Hello! Today I'd like to show you the way I narrow the rows in root weaving. In the previous master class we've discussed the option of widening the weaving, widening in every row, and in every other row. These two options have different angles of widening. Another difference is how straight the rows are. In case of widening in every row, corners often rise. If you don't need such an effect, I'd recommend you to add loops in every second or every third row. The same concerns the narrowing. These are my first works where I've narrowed the weaving. Take a look, please. There are both pros and cons. Let me tell you about them so that you can choose the option you prefer. So here I was reducing the number of loops in every row, which has created such a clear geometrical line. But there are such gaps. So if you like it this way and you manage to make neat joints, you can do it like this. However, in the course of my further experiments, I like this option better. The item is narrowing, but the narrowing is smooth and almost unnoticeable. Today I'm going to tell you about the first option and to show you the second one. The third thing I'd like to share today is how to switch from the square shape to the round one. This technique is somewhat peculiar in the way of reducing the number of loops. It is what I'm going to tell you today. So, what is the essence of reducing the number of loops? I've reached the corner where I see that the loops of the previous row have almost met. There is no interval between them. So, if I continue forcing new stitches through the loops, the tubes will get creased. Creases don't only depend on the quality of tubes, though it is the main point, where the tubes are hollow or dense, but also on how tightly you try to squeeze their tubes in. In this case, even dense tubes can crease. And secondly, our task is narrowing the weaving. That's why, while in the previous row I've involved each loop, in the current row I find the very central tube. Here it is. Right, this one goes through the very corner. And that's why I stitch the previous loop in a normal way. As for this one, I miss it. Leave it unoccupied. I lead a working tube through the following loop instead. That's all. I've performed the technique of reducing the number of loops. I've just missed one of the loops. And continue working. There are some questions asked below the previous master classes. One of the questions is how to change the color of tubes unnoticeably. It is quite easy. We just lengthen a tube in a regular way. My light blue tube is almost over, and I'd like to change it for a brown one. I pull the loop tighter, as I usually do when lengthening. In one of the previous master classes I've already shown how to lengthen the tubes neatly in root weaving. Then I cut the tail at a sharp angle, prepare a brown tube. Now I pin a brown tube onto a blue one and push it a little, which smoothens the tightened row. And I push the tube in such a way to place a joint hidden right under the row. Take a look, please. This makes the transition unseen. The same very technique we've already discussed. One more point. Irina Shabalina has proposed her method of easy root weaving. I've tried it and find this technique quite viable. But Irina proposes to put a piece of wire into this tube end, which I use as a needle. I had no wire at hand, so I've decided to try and use a toothpick. So you make use of some sharp object. It may be a wire, toothpick, depending on the diameter of your tubes. And this way you stitch your weaving through as if with a needle. In this case you can do with no additional tools. Take a look once again, please. Here is a toothpick. Well, I believe I don't need the whole of it. I put it into the tube, and it is very convenient to work this way. Thanks a lot to all of you, dear subscribers, for the ideas you share. They often turn out very useful, and I apply them with great pleasure. I've concluded for myself that this trick can be especially valuable when you've just painted the tubes and feel like weaving right away, before the tube ends dry out and behave like needles. In this case, such a method can be very useful. Let me show you the way I remove the loops at one more corner. Here is the center tube. Leave it uninvolved and weave through the next loop. Here at the corners it would be very convenient to use a toothpick. But because my tubes are dry, I do without it. And this way, depending on how fast you'd like your item to be narrowing and whether you'd like to get a distinct geometrical line or you prefer fluent transition, you choose for yourself whether to remove a loop in every row or in every second or every third row. For myself, I've developed the following approach to fluent narrowing. I continue weaving until I see that the loops meet each other and then miss a corner loop. When I see I still can involve a central loop, I weave one more row involving each loop. In this case, I know that the loops will meet in the following row for sure, because I am narrowing the item toward the top and shaping the corner. So the loops prompt whether to reduce the number right now or to weave one more row with no reduction. Now I'd like to show you how to round the corners and shift from a square box to a round top. Here it is well seen. For such a transition you need to round the corners. I've already woven one corner. Let me show you the way I do on the example of the second one. Take a look, please. To begin with, I was just weaving and have left a tube uninvolved before reaching the corner. It is going to be a tube of the base when I continue weaving further, after having rounded all the corners. I've prepared tubes of the base of different lengths for each corner. Here I've got 3 tubes of every length, because one corner has already been rounded. At first I take the longest tube, bend it into halves, adjoin it to the corner, and fasten it a little under the loops of the previous row. You can fasten it from the second end either from the very beginning or later, it's up to you. Well, it will be easier this way. So I fix the ends a little. Then I take a working tube and just lead it underneath. Later you can either cut the tail or tuck it in. I've already tried and actually it will be enough just to cut it off. And I weave a row partially, like in the normal standard weaving where we have shortened rows too. In the same way I weave part of the row here. Please note that when approaching the corner, I don't pull the tube of the base too close to the corner. I kind of loosen it instead. Let's lengthen the working tube. In order to avoid humped edges, I kind of sag the corner, press it. In the previous row I've missed one loop, so in the current row I stitch each loop. Don't draw the tube too close to the corner. Leave it loose. So I'm reaching the end of the tube of the base. By this moment my needle has almost turned into a rag. Well, I cannot do without lengthening here. While I was weaving, the tube of the base has slid out. Let's tuck it in carefully and weave until the end. At this side you can tuck the tube in neatly. At the starting point I don't fasten the tube end additionally, just cut it off. Here at the finish I fasten it carefully and cut off the tail after it. Got it? Continue. So far I've woven one partial row. Take the next tube, a shorter one. Bend it into halves. Mark the starting point. Fasten the tube end a little at the beginning of the row. Well, I don't actually fasten it, just tuck it in. You don't have to glue it, it will be held by the loop. And weave another partial row. 2 rows have turned insufficient for me, so I'm going to join the third short tube later. So repeat all the same steps, weave the row partially. In the current row I'm going to miss a corner loop again. I did remove one loop right before the shortened rows. So in the first partial row I have involved each loop, and in this row I'm going to miss one corner loop. Because they have met too tightly. I'm pushing the loops together neatly to hide the gaps. In the same way I'll fix this tail and weave till the very end after the lengthening. And the last third incomplete row. I join the shortest tube piece and weave this incomplete row in the same very way. Well, I'm not going to show it again. Everything's quite clear. The first incomplete row, the second and the third one. Here I've got such work pieces left for the base of the remaining two corners. At first I entwine the longest piece, then the medium one, and finally the shortest one. As a result I get such rounded corners. Then I'll continue weaving circle-wise, smoothing the corners, as many circles as needed. So all the four corners have been rounded. Now continue weaving circle-wise, narrowing the circle up to the desired diameter. After which I'm going to weave a round lead. The first row after rounding the corners requires a bit more efforts for smoothing. You follow your intuition prompting you where to lead a tube and how to smoothen the edge. Somewhere you miss a loop, cause we are narrowing the item anyway. Bend the edge down like this, and weave as many rows as you need. Here I wove a few rows narrowing, after which I've started rising straight up. You already know how to do it. You just place a tube of the base not tilted, but like this, right above the previous row. This way I raise the top. Here I'm going to continue narrowing for a while, after which I'll pass on to weaving straight up. This is how you can shift from a square to a round shape. We've already mastered some interesting forms of root weaving. In the next masterclass I'm going to show you how to weave a rectangular bottom.